Hey everyone, this is Joseph. This is my second time for my presentation. The first presentation is on the theory of social action theory. So some introductions. The powerful influence that social relationships have on the health has garnered great interest among both researchers and practitioners. Social action theory proposes that people's personal goals and characteristic problem-solving strategies in everyday contexts generate habitual action patterns that persist over time. So our miscarried endeavors. So SAT proposed that we pursue our strivings for health, love, and wealth by organizing our various goals and daily activities into adaptive self-endeavors that let us exercise our personal agency with a minimum of disruption. A social action analysis also suggests that enduring health habit change cannot be achieved merely by altering people's belief, expectancy, skills, and intentions. This analysis suggests that interventions to create a lasting habit change must target self-endeavor system and also the social environmental influences that sustain or disrupt them. So, a social action theory of the health behavior change. SAT holds that behavior change involves the restructuring self-endeavor, a process that unfolds in three distinctive phases. Phase 1, select a target for change by defining habit as action sequences that should be increased or reduced, and then specifying how the sequences are or might be woven obtrusively into the important daily routines. Phase 2 suggests the self-regulatory process that must be activated to establish the action patterns or habits specified in Phase 1. So Phase 3 identifies critical regulatory resources that are needed to support the self-change processes activating in Phase 2. So identifying health habits and routines. SAT defines habit as a highly routine, automatic, and predictable sequence of the anticipation, action, and the consequences that usually generates a desired outcome. SAT also holds that the assessment and modification of shared routine in couples, in families, in work, or educational settings is a critical objective in health habit change. For the analysis of the habits as self-sustaining action, SAT reveals principle that planners of health intervention are advised to bear in mind. First, unhealthy habits are functional. Second, because the unhealthy habits are functional, their disruption usually causes frustration. A third principle follows from the viewing the habits as action states composed of the stable feedback loops established by performing the same action sequence in the same setting with the same results over and over again. Finally, the notion that many habits exhibit social interdependence implies that many situational triggers and the reinforcing outcomes are mediated via the interpersonal exchanges. So self-change process that must be activated to alter the health habit include motivational mechanisms, constructive problem-solving activities, generative capabilities, and the social interaction process. Motivational processes, proactive attention. People do not persist in trying to change unhealthy habits unless they anticipate positive benefits, believe themselves to be capable of taking the necessary actions, and find that the new habits are compatible with the personal goals, routines, and the personal standards that serve valued endeavors. Constructive thinking, problem solving, and planning. Whereas motivation involves anticipating and evaluating, planning entails thinking constructively by imagining appropriate action sequences and settings. Generative capabilities, the ability to anticipate outcomes from goals, devise strategies, and engage in constructive problem solving and action planning for health behavior change requires the ability to control one's attention and to draw upon knowledge needed to evaluate outcomes, solve problems, form goals, and make action plans. Social interaction processes. Interaction patterns that create relational competence can be characterized as processes of interpersonal orientation, engagement, and shared control. Contextual influences. The self-change process activated by the Phase 2 interventions draw upon self-regulatory resources in the form of social-emotional competence and the affordances of one's social and material environment. Social-emotional competence. Social emotional competence consists of knowledge about one's social world, or mastery of the values, means, and properties of one's social media, which enables one to anticipate and evaluate outcomes, solve problems, and engage with others and thus to motivate and direct one's behavior. Social emotional competence is a function of prior exposure to competent social models, as well as having adequate nutrition and rest, for example. Objective assets. Other self-regulatory resources are affordances of our environment, and affordance is defined as whatever the environment offers us, either for good or ill. SAT analysis of objective assets as self-regulatory resources offers useful insights into the well-documented negative relationship between health and poverty. Social power. Our success in achieving lasting habit change is much affected by our ability to understand other people, to synchronize our action with others, and to influence them in desired ways. Such influence constitutes one's social power. Power is defined in SAT as the ability to affect other people in ways we wish to, including the ability to influence others' thoughts, feelings, and behavior. SAT proposes that power is created and exercised within social frames, where the relationship domains in which we typically interact with others. SAT emphasizes three powerful frames: reciprocal power, as in the partnership between equals, in which each person influences and is influenced by other partner. Dyadic relationship of this type usually involves reciprocal exchange of resources. Coalitional power, as when people work together in a group of equals that coordinate their actions to exert influence collectively. Hierarchical power, as in the relationship between persons of unequal status. Path to self-debilitation. In SAT, an ecological analysis of goal-directed endeavor identifies two important causal pathways by which human environments may foster self-debilitating habits. First one is egoistic striving, describes the family of self-endeavor characterized by striving to manage, control, or dominate others in one's social milieu, or dissipated striving describes the family of self-endeavor characterized by a tendency to disengage from long-term goals and a resulting failure to strive. Social action analysis suggests structural changes that can be implemented to support people's effort to predict their health by altering their behaviors. Pathway to health. So even in a highly stressful environment, many people develop effective ways to pursue valued self-endeavor and to protect their health. So transcendence, striving, describes a family or self-endeavor characterized by striving to change oneself or one's life circumstances. So first, one explore one's environment to discover attractive opportunity and form meaningful self-goals. Next, the quest to attain desired goals inspire a struggle to master the capability or expertise needed to realize them. Together, goals and skills orientation motivate efforts to direct, organize, and control one's action. Application. The social action analysis outlined above offers highly specific guidelines for health behavior change intervention. Failing in health promotion often results from lack of the appropriate selected or well-specified objectives. Self-change is possible only if one becomes aware of what one is doing and experiencing before, during, and after behavior one is trying to acquire or reduce. Strength of the social action theory. For the last half-century, theory of the health promotion have treated health knowledge and outcome expectancies as the primary movers of the health habit change. Despite the advent of social cognitive theory, most research finding fails to yield practical information that intervention planners can use to foster health protective habits. SAT addresses these needs by specifying self-regulatory mechanisms that give rise to self-endeavor and by indicating how this process combines to promote habit change. SAT also identified personal and environmental self-regulatory resources that directly affect social interactions, problem-solving, and self-efficacy and anticipated outcomes, and therefore facilitate or impede long-term habit change. So some limitations. As a theory intended to focus attention on promoting new questions, SAT raised a hypothesis that invited further study. The notion that increasing social power may foster motivation for habit change, while plausibly derived from existing evidence, should be tested further in health habit research. The goal congruence hypothesis, the success in changing habit is affected by the habit's compatibility with self-endeavor that serve goals of health, love, or wealth should be tested, or should be as should the notion that social emotional competence is an important self-regulatory resource for sustaining behavior change. So there's a lot of hypotheses need to be further tested in the future study. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful night. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to leave any notes in my presentation. Thank you. Have a good night.